Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Operations and Public Safety Committee meeting. Today is Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021. We do have a full agenda this afternoon. That's why we are getting started a little bit early to allow us enough time to get completed through all of the things we have before us. The first item is the roll call. Kim, will you please call the roll?
Thank you. Council President Troutner?
Here.
Councilmember Boyce?
Here.
Councilmember Fincher?
Here.
Councilmember Kaur? Councilmember Larmer? Councilmember Michaud?
Here.
Councilmember Thomas?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is the approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes from council or staff?
Then, Madam Chair, I would move for the approval of the agenda.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Approval of the agenda passes, and we will move on next to the approval of the minutes. This is from our October 19th, 2021 meeting.
Madam Chair, I would move for approval of the October 19, 2021 minutes.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. Next, we will go on to the business of our meeting, and the first item is payment of bills. Those come to the council through email. So does anyone have any questions? All right, a motion would be in order.
Madam Chair, I move to authorize the payment of bills.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. Next up, we will move on to the 2022 legislative agenda. This will also require action by council, and we're going to be joined by Briahna Murray, but I'm first going to turn it over to Derek Matheson.
All right. Thank you, Madam President, and good afternoon, committee members. It's my pleasure to welcome Briahna Murray, our Government Affairs Consultant, lobbyist with Gordon Thomas Honeywell Government Affairs. As we do every year, she met with all of our department directors and their staffs, and then with the mayor and me, and from those conversations put together a draft legislative agenda that she will walk you through this afternoon. And then, as you mentioned, Madam President, the committee action would be to forward this to the November 16th consent calendar.
Thank you. So I will jump in. I'm Briahna Murray. Thank you for the introduction, Derek. And in the interest of time, I'm going to just get started. I have a brief presentation before we dive into the draft legislative agenda and policy document in your packet. I want to just make sure that we're discussing these documents in the broader context of the political climate and legislative activity. So I want to review where we left off, provide an overview of what to expect in the upcoming legislative session, and then we'll transition to reviewing the documents. So the legislature operates on a 2-year cycle, where the 2022 session will be the second year of that 2-year cycle. I think it's really important to recognize what we accomplished in the first year of that cycle during the 2021 legislative session. With a great amount of effort and coordination with our legislative delegation, we were able to get streamlined sales tax mitigation funding restored and extended through 2026. We were able to secure $2 million in the capital budget for Panther Lake Community Park, and also received significant grant awards through several programs, including Floodplains by Design and the Washington Wildlife and Recreation Program, as well as the WashDOT Pedestrian and Bicycle Grant Program. Overall, the 2021 session was immensely successful for the city of Kent in accomplishing our legislative priorities. And as we look to 2022, we want to recognize and build on that success. As I mentioned, the 2022 session will be the second year of the 2-year biennium. As the second year, it is a short 60-day session. The political climate generally remains the same between the 2 years. So Democrats will continue to hold the majority in both the House and the Senate. Following the 2022 session, legislators are half the members of the state Senate and all the members of the House of Representatives will be seeking re-election. So they will be on the ballot in November of 2022. Additionally, they will be seeking re-election to new district boundaries that the Redistricting Commission is announcing later this month. What this means is that it's highly unlikely that controversial issues will advance in a short 60-day session immediately prior to an election season. It's unclear what format the upcoming legislative session will take, whether it will be virtual, hybrid, or fully in person. I will mention that they are holding committee days later this month and have chosen to conduct those entirely virtually. Throughout the 60 days, the legislature will focus on adopting supplemental budgets. So last year they adopted a full biennial budget, and now they will be going in and through supplemental budgets, making amendments and additions to those budgets. As a reminder, the state has 3 different budgets: an operating budget, a capital budget, and a transportation budget. We saw significant successes in accomplishing our priorities in the operating and capital budget last year. The operating budget continues to look healthy, and we're not anticipating any cuts, which is something we always are on the defense of, particularly for streamlined sales tax mitigation. There's going to be limited capital funding available this year. They reserved very, very limited funds for a supplemental budget and made the vast majority of their investments in the first year of the biennium. The transportation budget was an item from last legislative session that remains undone, and you'll see in our draft priorities that many of our transportation requests from last year carry over to this year's documents because that work remains undone. In addition to budget work, policy bills will be under consideration. All bills that were introduced in the 2021 session that did not pass will carry over and continue to be considered in 2022. Additionally, new policy bills can be introduced, and those will start being introduced starting December 1st. They'll begin to be pre-filed. We're beginning to see some hot topics emerge for this upcoming session. Those have framed some of the political context that went into the development of the agendas before you. One of the hot topics, as I mentioned before, is transportation, largely seen as an item that's left undone. Another is revisiting and clarifying some of the police transformation bills that were enacted during the 2021 legislative session. We're also anticipating a fairly robust discussion around zoning and density. With that, I'm going to switch over to bring up the draft legislative documents that we've developed. So I'm going to start first with the top legislative priorities. These items really build on a lot of our work from the first year of the biennium. And just as a reminder, the goal of the 2 documents, you have two different documents that make up your legislative agenda. The first is your legislative priorities that are a handful of items that really are the top priority items that you'd like to see myself, as well as our legislative delegation, dedicate the vast majority of our time and energy to. However, the legislature considers dozens, if not hundreds, of other bills that impact city business. So in addition to this legislative priority document with this handful of issues, we also have a policy document that outlines all of those other issues that have an impact on city business. And this provides direction to myself as well as other city staff on how to weigh in on bills throughout the legislative process. So starting first with the legislative priorities. Last legislative session, our top priority agenda included support for criminal justice reform. On this year's legislative agenda, that sentiment is carried forward. We have a statement here that we appreciate the legislature's bold action to enact criminal justice reform. However, we urge the legislature to revisit some of the new laws to provide clarity and balance between community safety and needed reform. This is a conversation that we know that the legislature will be having, and this is direction for us to carefully, to engage in the issue as a top priority issue and to report on it as such in your weekly reports. This next priority item is on transportation. All of these items are carryover items from last year's legislative agenda. We have been advocating for a transportation revenue package that includes funding for the Meet Me on Meeker project, as well as completing the 224th Street project, and an increase in funding to cities broadly for local preservation and maintenance. I'll mention that under the direction provided in the 2021 legislative agenda, we have been working since the session ended to advocate for these projects. We've had members of the city's legislative delegation out on transportation tours, and we've had a really good positive reception to these projects. The challenge remains the overall objective of the legislature reaching agreement on a robust revenue package. The next statement around housing is also a carryover from 2021. The legislature took bold action on housing, but we anticipate the conversation and effort to continue as it remains a pressing community need. One item that is different in this statement from previous year's statement is specifically requesting state assistance to ensure residents of mobile home parks located near light rail stations receive equitable and adequate relocation assistance if they are displaced by private development. This is a new request or a new nuanced element on this request as a top priority item. In the past, it's been mentioned as a policy document item. And we believe there's a potential opportunity to secure some specific pilot funding, narrow in nature, for mobile home parks directly located near light rail stations. The last priority item is downtown quiet zones, and this is a new request, and one that really builds on a lot of work that the city has already been doing, and asking the state to contribute as a financial partner with $3 million to make the necessary improvements at rail crossings throughout the downtown in order to have the quiet zone be approved and enacted by the Federal Railroad Administration, as well as the UP and BNSF railroads. So this is really asking for $3 million from the state. And that $3 million, I believe, could come from any of the three budgets. And so for that reason, we've left it flexible and have not outlined whether it would be operating, capital, or transportation. Moving on to the policy document. Again, this is a list of dozens of different issues. In your packet is a track changes version that shows last year's changes from this year's. We update this document each year, but for the most part, the content is something that we build upon each year. I want to call out just a couple items that have been added to the list, and then would encourage you to peruse the track changes document on your own time. So the first one I want to disclose is this disclosure of police body camera footage. It's requesting that the legislature remove the requirement that a city redact body-worn camera footage that is being requested by an attorney that is otherwise receiving the same footage that unredacted through the discovery process. This is really asking the legislature to remove a requirement that consumes city staff time and expense, but does it otherwise, the recipient is receiving the same footage unredacted. So we're spending city resources to provide it to them redacted. So it's an efficiency request. That is a policy item that, while a lower priority item, is legislation that will be asking be introduced this next session. We'll have the support of several other jurisdictions. Another item on the policy document is access for non-English speaking individuals. This is increased funding to ensure improved communication and access to government for non-English speaking individuals. This would be a statement of support for not just at city government, but at any level of government, and the funding necessary to go with that. Another item I'd like to call out is this statement in support of the Kent Valley Advanced Technology Teaching Center. You all refer to it as the Naden property or future STEMnasium. We've had a lot of interest from legislators, particularly Senator Lisa Wellman, on the project. And so we've added it to the policy document as we anticipate we'll be working with legislators on the project as it comes to a more final stage. We've added in a statement on cybersecurity that we support the state in providing financial and technical assistance to address cybersecurity threats. That is something that has been worked on at the state level for several years and will be joining a coalition effort. Moving down to public safety, we've added a statement on substance abuse treatment grant funding to increase the funding for therapeutic courts, navigation, case management, and other programs to assist individuals in access to drug and alcohol assessment and treatment. This builds on some of the work the departments have been doing around applying for various grants for these types of programs and the availability of those funds. We also have a statement here in support of expanding city's authority to utilize automated speed cameras. This is a proposal we know is coming forward from other jurisdictions and a statement in support of that broader effort. I'm inclined to stop there and get any feedback that you all have on either the legislative agenda or the policy document. It is in your packets, so I'm going to stop share so that you can see your lovely faces. Maybe.
Thank you very much, Briahna. It's great to see you. I am going to start with Councilmember Thomas.
Good afternoon, Briahna. I attended a fire chiefs conference last weekend, and they are very concerned. It's about public safety. It's about a House bill, and I believe it was House Bill 1308. Don't quote me on that. There was virtually no support for that particular House bill, and you'll probably be hearing from the lobbyists from them, but I don't know if you know anything about that or not. I don't have the specifics. I wish I did.
Yeah. So I'm familiar with the fire chief's legislative agenda and their concerns around most issues. The bill number 1308, though, is not an issue. It's about expanding apprenticeship utilization requirements, and I don't think is on point. So I think that must be the wrong bill number.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, so I do think that I'm familiar with the fire chief's priorities. They work with their lobbyists very closely. I'm happy to follow up and get their full agenda and send it to you, and perhaps you can identify which issue was of concern to you.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Briahna? All right, so we have a motion before us to accept this legislative agenda.
Yes, Madam Chair. I move that we adopt the City of Kent's 2022 state legislative agenda.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just a quick question, Brianna, this is Bill Boyce. These are packaged similar to the other cities around us for Federway and Auburn. Are there any big difference between the cities, the South King County city, and what they're looking for? Do you know?
No, I don't think that there are substantial differences. I think our statement right up there at the top around community safety is going to be consistent with what you see across all cities throughout the state. Our transportation requests, of course, are very unique to the city of Kent because those are specific Kent needs, and same thing with the downtown quiet zones. But I think the other components are very similar to what you'll see from other communities.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we have a motion and a second before us. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the motion passes to adopt the 2022 state legislative agenda. Derek, do you want to speak on the next issue, which is the contract for Gordon. I'm getting to my thing. The government contract for Briahna.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. So the City of Kent has contracted with Gordon Thomas Honeywell Government Affairs and Briahna Murray for state legislative lobbying services since 2018. She's been doing a wonderful job for us, and you just saw an example of that over the last several minutes. And so we're recommending an amendment to extend the term through 2023 with a 3% increase to the current contract amount, which is about half of the rate of inflation in play right now. All other terms of the original council-approved agreement remain unchanged, and so staff recommends authorizing the mayor to sign the amendment.
All right, does anyone have any questions about this? All right, a motion would be in order?
Yes, Madam Chair, I move to authorize the mayor to sign a second amendment to the consultant services agreement with Gordon Thomas Honeywell Government Affairs, subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the chief administrative officer and city attorney.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you again, Briahna, for joining. Oh, motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Briahna, for joining us. Hopefully, we'll get to see you in person sometime soon.
Yes, I hope so. And thank you all. Great to see you virtually this evening, and I look forward to working with you all throughout this next legislative session.
Wonderful. All right, we are going to move on to the next item in our agenda, which is consolidating budget. Adjustment ordinance for July 1st through September 30th, and I'm going to welcome Michelle.
Adjustment for the third quarter in 2021. This third quarter adjustment is reflecting an overall budget increase of $13,102,218. The previous approved budget expenditure increase totals $6,998,530. And budget adjustments that have not been previously approved by council total $6,103,688. So for the majority of this presentation, I'll be using rounded numbers, but the ordinance and exhibits contain the exact budget figures. The expenditure increases of nearly $7 million that council has previously approved include $3.9 million in grants and $3.1 million in other changes. The grants included in this budget change are $3.05 million from the U.S. Small Business Administration for the Shuttered Venue Operator Grant for COVID-19 emergency assistance at the Acesso Showwear Center that was approved by council in August. $445,000 for recycling grant carryforwards. These recycling grants from the Washington Department of Ecology, King County Solid Waste, and King County Public Health are awarded in July and go through the following June, so they need to be carried forward each year. $236,000 from the Puget Sound Regional Council for the design phase of Meet Me on Meeker's transit and non-motorized intersection improvements at West Meeker Street and 64th Avenue South that was approved by council in June, and $115,000 in criminal justice grants. The other council-approved changes that total $3.1 million that are included in this amendment are $1.9 million for the Amanda project that was approved by council in September. $547,000 was transferred out of the Capital Resources Fund and into the Amanda project, and then $547,000 is budgeted within the project. $860,000 for CDBG CV third round funding that was approved for council in July. $639,000 for the use of Showwear's operating fund balance for capital repairs and replacements to include the scoreboard, arc flash tests, carpet, and transformer replacements that were approved by council in February and September. $283,000 was budgeted for the use of Parks Veterans Senior and Human Services Levy funds, which were approved by council in March. And $226,000 was budgeted for the File Local project that was approved by council in April. $104,000 was transferred out of the Capital Resources Fund and into the File Local project, and then $104,000 was budgeted in the project for the use of those funds, as well as $18,000 in the general fund for yearly agency fees. The remaining adjustments that total $6.1 million council has not yet approved. These include $3.69 million to establish impact fee budgets. Historically, the city has not budgeted these type of funds, but due to changes in accounting rules, they are now required to have established budgets. $2 million has been budgeted for fire impact fees, and $1.6 million has been budgeted for school impact fees. A budget change of $1.37 million is needed to transfer funds from the B&O unallocated projects to various projects in order to build up a fund balance in these projects and for possible grant matches. $460,000 will be transferred to the South 212 project, $400,000 to the 4th and Willis roundabout project, $400,000 to the B&O street contractor project, and $111,000 to the complete streets meter project. A budget change of $455,000 is needed to transfer King County levy funds to the 4th and Willis placemaking project and Salt Air Vista projects. A budget change of $273,000 is needed for ARPA-related expenditures. $75,000 for teleconferencing hardware and $50,000 for the new pre-apprenticeship program will be transferred out of the ARPA project and then budgeted within their respective projects. In addition, $23,000 in ARPA funds will be transferred out of the ARPA project in 2021 and into the general fund for a grant analyst position. This position will have a maximum 5-year expense budget of $720,000 and a term length through 2026, as noted in the 2022 proposed mid-biennium budget adjustment. And last, a budget change of $230,000 is needed to close some public works projects. A total of $115,000 will be transferred out of streets, water, sewer, drainage, and IT funds and into the Russell Road site prep project, shops restroom project, and aerial flight projects, and $115,000 will be budgeted within these projects for the use of these funds. Any questions?
Councilmember Boyce.
Hello. This year for the school impact fee, so that is something new. So typically that is a in and out type thing. So
Yeah, we collect the funds and then just pass them on.
Yes, we have the budget for it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Michelle? All right, with that, a motion to accept these would be in order.
Madam President, I move to adopt ordinance number 4413, approving the consolidating budget adjustments made between July 1st, 2021 and September 30th, 2021, reflecting an overall budget increase of $13,102,218.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you, Michelle. Next up, we have the Comprehensive Plan Amendment for 2022 to 2027 Capital Improvement Program. This also requires action. Welcome, Paula.
Good evening, Council President Troutner and members of the City Council. This has been quite a journey for us as we have been working on the 2022 mid-biennium budget adjustment. And this will be the first of 3 presentations that I will be giving today, in addition to Hayley, who will be jumping in as well as part of documents and processes that are necessary for this mid-biennium budget adjustment. So first off, I'm going to talk about the 2022-2027 Capital Improvement Program. This is required by the Growth Management Act, which was passed back in 1990, and it requires the city to put together a 6-year capital plan. And in doing so, we put together not only where the resources will be coming from, but what also projects we would be doing in order to ensure that we can continue to maintain our levels of service. By adopting the ordinance that's in the packet, this will then update the city's comprehensive plan. And the first part of the plan, which is 2022, that will be included in the mid-biennium budget adjustment. So you'll see here is the 6-year plan with $215.5 million in capital expenditures, where city, utility, and other resources will be used, and capital projects from the general fund, Parks, Rec, and community services, transportation, and utility projects will all be funded with that. Of that 215.5 million, 56.3 million is included in the 2022 budget. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Paula? All right.
All right, Madam President, then I would like to move to adopt ordinance number 4414, amending the capital facilities element of the Kent Comprehensive Plan to include the 2022 through 2027 capital improvement program.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you, Paula. So next up, we have Hayley to present on the comprehensive plan to adopt capital facilities for Auburn, for Kent Auburn Federal Way School Districts. Hayley, are you going to go through each one of these?
I'm happy to do it any way you like.
Whichever you prefer, and then we will follow your lead on adopting.
Okay, why
each
don't we
one.
do the first two together since they're on the school districts? And
Okay.
then we'll do the RFA one separately.
Okay.
So this is our annual update to incorporate the most recent capital facility plans from the Auburn, Federal Way, and Kent school districts into our capital facilities element of the comprehensive plan. As I mentioned at the public hearing for this, all the school districts continue to work through the funds that they passed with the levies in 2016. We did also learn that enrollments were generally down, but that they are generally planning to bounce back up. So turning to impact fees, which is your second motion, the reflection of that enrollment being down is seen in both Federal Way and Auburn impact fees, which are going down compared to last year. Kent School District continues to use an inflation-based approach, so theirs are going slightly up. So for the first time since we passed the cap, none of these school districts are actually meeting the cap that we put on the fees, which are now set at $10,044 for single-family dwelling units and $10,234 for multifamily dwelling units. So happy to take any questions on the school district capital facility plans or impact fees.
All right. Any questions for Hayley? All right. Councilmember Thomas.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I move to adopt ordinance number 4415, amending the capital facilities element of the comprehensive plan by adopting the Kent, Auburn, and Federal Way School Districts 2022 through 2027 capital facilities plans.
Second?
Do you want to do the second one as well, and we'll just get them all?
Oh, sure.
Yep.
Be glad to.
Thank you.
Madam President, I would also like to move to adopt ordinance number 4416, amending section 12.13.160 of the Kent City Code to adjust the school impact fees schedules for the Kent, Auburn, and Federal Way school districts.
Second?
All right. So we have these two motions before us. Any discussion on either? All right. Seeing none, a motion to accept both would be in order. All those in, or I'm sorry, voting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, both motions pass. And moving on to the next
I have
one,
a
Hayley.
point of personal privilege. Pat, can we take two amendments like that in a row at the same time? Or can we just do one after another real quick?
Under Robert's Rules of Order, technically no.
You're right.
But if nobody objects, then you can.
Okay.
Nobody objected, so you're okay.
Okay, I'm good.
Thank you for clarifying, Councilmember Thomas.
I love Robert's rules. Overruled.
And lastly, the RFA's comprehensive
Yes,
or
thank
capital
you.
improvement plan.
So we're going to take a look at RFA's 2022 to 2027 capital improvement plan and their mitigation and level of service policy, which again includes new impact fees. So this capital improvement plan updates demographic estimates, station reliability charts, and mostly construction cost changes to come up with a new formula. They're reflecting current housing, commercial, and population estimates and removing some discounts to get to, I think, what they want ultimately was a more simplified fire impact fee formula. And as mentioned previously, this is something that we collect and then pass right on. So I'm happy to take any questions about amending our comp plan and updating our fees per the request of Puget Sound Regional Fire Authority.
All right, any questions on this item? Okay. Motion.
Then, Madam President, I would move to adopt ordinance number 4417, amending the capital facilities element of the comprehensive plan by adopting the Puget Sound Regional Fire Authority's 2022 through 2027 capital improvement plan, including updating fire impact fees.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that item? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you, Hayley. Next, I would like to welcome our Finance Director, Paula Painter, back to talk about the property tax levy ordinance.
All right, thank you for welcoming me back, if I can get that out, thank you. Anyways, the property tax levy ordinance is what is in front of you today, and what this will do is adopt this for the 2022 budget. Looking at the assessed valuation for 2022, it is estimated to be $26.85 billion. And that is then because of the rate of increase. We are limited to a 1% increase in our levy rate. With the rate of assessed valuation increase, that would impact the levy rate, resulting in 1.22972, which is lower than our current rate. If you notice, for the median home value, it would be for the city share only about $510. Compared to $523 in 2021. The result of this will increase the budget for the property tax revenue by about $300,000 in the 2022 budget, bringing it to nearly $32.5 million for that budget. And that was reflected in the proposed budget amendment that did come before you earlier in September. Do you have any questions on the property tax?
Any questions for Paula?
Madam Chair.
Councilmember Thomas.
So you've gone down to 510, but you've got more homes now, so that why the increase overall revenue?
Yeah, so we get 1% plus all new construction. So yes, that does impact the increase in the rate, which is why we were able to go up this year, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Well, and just a reminder, that amount is what comes to the city, because I know I pay quite a bit in my property taxes, and just to think that that amount is what comes to the city.
Absolutely.
For all the services that we get.
Absolutely. It ends up being about 11% of what you actually pay in your property tax that really comes to the city.
Yeah.
A bargain.
Mm-hmm. All right, any other questions for Paula? Then
If
a
not,
motion would be.
Madam President, I would move to adopt ordinance number 4418, approving the property tax levy ordinance for the 2022 budget.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Next up, we have the 2022 mid-biennium budget adjustment ordinance.
All right, and that was the same presentation, Kim. We're just going to continue on. We were a little tricky there. All right, so back in September, the mayor brought forth to you the 2022 mid-biennium budget adjustment. That adjustment included a total increase budget of $72.76 million, which would result in a total budget of $421.3 million, including nearly $129 million in a general fund budget. Of that, $1.7 million of the general fund balance would be used. And those were primarily for one-time expenses, including the litter strike team, in which $1 million of that fund balance was used. This budget adjustment, though, was a little bit unusual, in which we not only did some minor adjustments to revenue forecasts and such within here, but we also had ARPA and some additional capital dollars as the city received back their sales tax, streamlined sales tax mitigation dollars this year as well. So when we start looking at the 2022 proposed budget, we'll start first, though, with the adopted budget. Originally, it was adopted at $348.5 million. With $72.7 million in changes, it's going to increase the budget to a total of $421,309. $421,309,650. Boy, I'm having a hard time with my words today. A lot of tongue twister going on there, but We talked about the fact that the $72.7 million looks like really a huge number, but in reality, there is a lot of double and triple counting for how we have to do our accounting for expending dollars. The ARPA funding really did impact that figure quite a bit. In fact, if you start looking at the increases to the general fund at $18.1 million, of that, $12 million is ARPA related. You're going to find that same thing within our special revenue funds. The money from ARPA was actually first originally recorded into our special revenue fund, so you will see that also being significantly higher and impacted by those dollars. As Michelle mentioned earlier, we have the other funds. That's the $3.9 million. Those are those school and fire impact fees. Again, they're not new revenue to us. These are things that are passing through, but because of some accounting standards, we actually do have to create a budget now for them. And then other than that, let's look at some of the highlights of the 2022 budget. The co-responder model was included in this budget at $940,000. Also, the data collection system at $267,000. That did include a position as well as a platform for collecting that data. A portion of that was paid for out of ARPA funding, so you'll see the ARPA number looks a little bit lower because we kind of rolled that all together. In addition, we were able to unfreeze 5 police officer positions that were frozen during the budget reduction exercise that took place back in the spring of 2020. And in addition to that, we also did restore some of the positions that were eliminated during that reduction as well. The litter strike team was created using general fund dollars as well as the drainage fund. And then the ARPA. Now these ARPA dollars were also adjusted to incorporate some of the conversations and requests of City Council to fund sidewalks and a graffiti program. So that has also been rolled into these numbers here. In addition, as you saw on the third quarter budget amendment, a new pre-apprenticeship for $50,000 was accounted for in 2021 and adjusted with the ARPA dollars that you're seeing there. We also had $5.5 million in capital additions. And I would be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Paula. Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you, Madam President. So by unfreezing, does that mean we hired 5 new officers?
We have now unfroze them, which gives us the ability to hire those officers.
I see. All right.
Councilmember Boyce.
Paula, can you recap the position for COVID that we're restoring? I don't recall
Yes.
where it was at, what department?
Absolutely. So if you give me just 1 second here. There were positions in the permit center that were restored. There were 2 of them, and plus a reclass of a position that was existing there, transferring that from a TLT to a permanent position. Okay. There was a senior center TLT position that was restored. In addition, there was a street fund engineer that was restored. Now that one did end up being a net zero to the budget this year, but that position did come back to the street fund.
It's about 4 positions, what it comes down to, right?
That is correct.
Yep.
Was it 4?
Okay, thank you.
I think it was just 4 of them.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions for Paula? All right, do we have an ordinance to accept?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I would be pleased to move to adopt ordinance number 4419, approving 2022 mid-biennium budget and modifications.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you, Paula. And now we are on to the last item of business, which is the cooperative agreement with CDWG for computer laptop monitors and associated accessories.
Good afternoon, committee. Thank you for the time today. So I'm here today to talk about IT support of the hardware lifecycle for the city computers, monitors, laptops, software for the city. So we are here requesting the approval today to move forward with the cooperative purchasing agreement between CDWG, and King County Directors Association, as long as that contract is in effect and within established IT budgets. Additionally, IT is requesting a ratification of previously purchased equipment made between 2018, March 2018, and June of 2021, totaling $776,000. Those purchases were funded through previously approved IT budgets. Any questions?
All right, any questions on this?
What page is this? What page is this?
All right. Anything?
You're just approving the ability to.
This is the last item, item K.
Within budgets, okay. So as long as we're just approving the open, okay, no questions.
All right, a motion would be in order.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would move to authorize the city's Information Technology Department to purchase technology supplies, materials, equipment, and software through cooperative purchasing agreement with the Association of Education Purchasing Agencies between CDW Government LLC and the King County Directors Association, a member of the Association of Educational Purchasing Agencies, if those purchases are within established budgets and made during the term of the cooperative agreement, which is currently in effect. Can I have lunch? through February 28, 2022, and ratify all prior purchases under the cooperative agreement and consistent with this motion. Thanks a lot.
Yes, thank you very much.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Better not.
Motion passes. Eric Matheson, would you like to have a moment to talk?
Right, thank you. I wanted to note our past practice with this list of budget ordinances is that we place the budget adoption ordinance itself on other business at the regular council meeting and place the other items on the consent calendar. And our plan is to continue to do that unless council directs otherwise. You could choose to put the budget ordinance on consent as well, or any combination.
All right. So does anybody have any, so this would be to put it onto other business, or do you need an answer from us as far as?
No, if there are no objections, we'll put the ordinance on other business and the remaining items on the consent calendar.
Okay. Any objections to that?
Agree with
Everybody
that.
good? All right, that makes sense. Thank
Right.
you very much.
Good.
All right. That brings us to the end of our agenda. We do not have workshop this evening because it is election day. So we will be starting our council meeting at 5 p.m. And hopefully it will be a short meeting as well. So thank you to everybody for joining us. We will be back here again at 5 o'clock, and we are adjourned.